What's up, guys? We're live. It's Keith Kelfis with the Untrapped podcast. Man, we have an awesome guest. We've got Marvin Joles from Blacktop Banter in Wizcoat. He's an asphalt specialist in Wisconsin, and he's here right now on the podcast. We're going to talk about knowing your worth in order to grow your business and also some phenomenal networking tips and what's made this guy so successful. 2015, I think we at the GIE Expo, we did a meet, kind of a YouTube meetup by the Blue Roller Coaster in the parking lot, if you know what that is. And bro, he was there, and I met him for the first time, and he had this fire in his eyes and this desire, and he also seemed a little frustrated. Like, have you ever wanted to be so successful so bad that you felt like you're like, I don't know, like your hair, you're running like your hair is on fire. He had this thing, and I went back and he walked away, but then I ran back and I grabbed him, and I'm like, bro, I gotta tell you, like, you're the fucking dude. And you looked at me, and I think I'm a little dramatic. I don't know if you were very emotional, or you had tears in your eyes, you were frustrated, but you were like, I just want to be the best human being that I can be. And when you said it, it wasn't like, it wasn't fake at all. And I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, it was like you had this, it was your soul coming out, and you're like, like in every way, like you felt the level of accountability of that t-shirt. Everything is my fault. Like you understood that shit. And you said, I just want to be the best man that I can be. And like, I've watched you over the years now, like, grow. Your company's blown up. You got 10 employees. You got another location, like another business you own. You got Blacktop Banter podcast. I see you all over LinkedIn and all over the place. You become the second biggest media, soon to be, I bet you, the first biggest media influencer in the asphalt industry. And very closely, you're at the GIE Expo, so there's asphalt guys there too. And bro, you're just a wealth of knowledge, and it's very nice to connect with you again. What's up, Marvin Joles?
Hey, man, I really, really appreciate you having me. It feels good to be, back on and communicating and speaking with you. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of remember that first meetup the same. I remember that I was not there at all for green industry equipment or anything like that. I was there because I seen a community get built because I went down a rabbit hole of videos. And there was a handful of guys whose videos I watched on YouTube. You happen to be one of those guys. And we were at that roller coaster thing. And I remember coming up to you and I was like, how do I create influence? And I remember you kind of gave me, like, there's tons of people there. And at this point, right, people are just wanting to take pictures and say, hey, tell you how much they like your channel, do all this. And I'm like, how do I create influence? And I remember you gave me an answer. We were like, well, it's not easy, man. I had to study like algorithms and how I was going to do well marketing on social media and everything. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't get very far away. And you were right. You came running across and you're like, why'd you ask me that question? And I did give you that answer of, I want to be the absolute best version of myself that I could be. I remember telling you the universe dealt me a raw deal, and I want to make sure that I squeeze every bit of juice out of this orange that I am given in order to make it the best version of myself, be the best man I could be by the end. So that's really where we started to connect. And I appreciate you seeing that in me early on, right? That I was different and I wanted something different. The reason I was emotional is because that was the only reason I came down there. And I didn't have a lot of money. And I invested going there in hopes of learning something that I would be able to use to propel me on a path of creating significance, leaving a legacy, and building something notable while I have the short amount of time here, wherever we are, right, in this existence. You and I went down a lot of those conversations about that type of stuff. And that's what we did. And that's what I started to do. And it really wasn't that long. I realized the power of networking. And I didn't realize that I had a natural ability at networking and communication and that type of stuff. But because of yourself and other people within the green space that gave me a shot, I did attend GIE probably, I don't know, man, 4, 5, 6 more times. Last year was the first year that I didn't go, only because we had a lot going on here on our space. So I kind of graduated, I guess, is what the guys were telling me. But I've been fortunate enough to stay in touch and now had some of our friends, Naylor, most recently came to the Blacktop Banner kickoff event at the National Pavement Expo and was just like, dude, I can't believe it. Like, you actually made the transition. And it was really cool. It was really cool to see that. We had 250 people there, all friends, all people I know. And it was huge, man. And a lot of that is credit to you too, Keith, for being instrumental early on and being like, okay, I'll tell this kid some things and we'll see what he does.
Dude, amazing. So the Blacktop Banter, you guys had a live event?
Yeah. So we had a live event. The conference kickoff happened in Charlotte, North Carolina this year. And we were fortunate enough. I had a lot of creators from within Blacktop Banter. We now host 4 podcasts, including myself, with Blacktop Banter. We also have the 7-Day Hustle with Kyle Schoen from Integrity Earth and Asphalt, Stripe It Like It's Hot with Cam Robert from Laserline Painting up in Canada. And then we have a new one, The Contractor's Daughter with Jeannie Ringcobb. And they're all here at Blacktop Banter. They were all there shaking hands, saying, hey, we have a what we call a success group, which I would consider a community, a close, tight-knit community versus a mastermind group. I'll give in and say it's a mastermind group. But they were all there, but it wasn't exclusive. Anybody could come. My friend Spencer Boyd from NASCAR drives in the truck series. He was there, shook hands with everybody, signed autographs. So we had a great time in downtown Charlotte. We're going to be doing that again this year too. So it's really
When's the date?
interesting. It's going to be end of January, January 27th to February 1st at PaveX, which is a brand new expo that we're helping promote and be part of. And we're really excited about that. It's a great opportunity for us here at Blacktop Banter. And it'll be in San Antonio. So we're really excited about that one. There's going to be a live, a parking lot playground where a lot of the major manufacturers and suppliers in our industry that make the huge equipment that you see roads get built out of are going to be on this parking lot and doing live demos and that type of stuff. So it's a 3 or 4 day event with education and everything.
What's the website or social media handles for all that?
Yeah, so Payvex is Payvex Experience, and you can find that at, if you just go in Google and type in Payvex, you'll see it's brand new. We're making a transition from National Pavement Expo to there, which National Pavement Expo has been great for me throughout the years. It's where we speak. We did the podcast live and did our kickoff events and stuff to start. Made some great connections there, but things changed a little bit, and we're transitioning over to Payvex this year. But we're really excited about that, being partners and you know, working things together with that company, putting those types of things together. But this year we look to do our own event too, the Blacktop Banner event here in Wisconsin, a little bit more close knit, a little bit more intimate with formal education and some of that type of stuff. As far as for contractors strictly that are in our space and our size and doing what we're doing.
What would you say happened inside of you to make you want to do a podcast and be on LinkedIn and all over videos? And I'm sure you got a YouTube channel and everything.
Yeah, I never really got as good success at YouTube as I thought I would. I thought being around all of us and all of our friends in the green space that I emulated really well. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get some kind of flutter. And it really wasn't there that took off. My industry actually prefers short form content, I guess, more. And we really took off on TikTok, and then our Instagram started to take off. And in podcast form, we actually do pretty well as well because guys are out with earbuds in most of the time anyways, out cleaning parking lots or working on road crews or doing whatever, and they're listening to the podcast. So we chop stuff up and do that type of stuff. But to be honest with you, I don't know, man. I know for a fact the reason that I came to GIE is because the summer before I I got somewhat successful, more success than I had ever had in my business at Wiscote. And I knew that if all I ever did was go to work, make blacktop black, come home, go to sleep, wake up, make blacktop black, come home, go to sleep, and I did that on repetition and pretty much hibernated through the winter and then did it again in the summer, that was going to be what my life was going to look like for the unforeseeable future, right? If I lived in my 70s and I worked into my 70s, I worked in my 60s, that was the next 40 or 50 years of my life. And I had already felt like at 28 or in 26 that I had been around a long time, right? So I was like, dude, I do not want to do this. So I wanted to do something fun. I wanted to do something exciting. And the big thing is I didn't want to do it alone, right? That was the worst part is I didn't want to do it alone. And it was great being around all of our friends in the green industry and whatnot, but they didn't really connect with me the way that I was hoping and needed that connection. So I really started to make Facebook groups and find that community and the people within there, and then really started to sift out the great people with the great hearts and the great intentions, and they became close in my circle. and really started to build on those people by creating content with them, around them, through them. And that's why I did it. I think I just didn't want to do my whole career and life alone. I didn't want to be alone in this. I mean, I know I'm wearing a black shirt and I'm in a black room with a black backdrop, but
It
I
looks
mean, that's
sweet by
pretty dark,
the
right?
way.
I
It's
mean,
dope.
that's a pretty dark thing to say you're going to go through your life making things black alone. I didn't want to do that.
I would never even thought of that, but you're in it, so that makes yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
you know what? I just but you gave me so it's like pure black. I saw this thing of like different colored shirts, like, and it shows like a thermograph of what colors like to wear outside in the sun if you want to stay cool. Obviously, white and the dark of the color is black, and I wear black shirts, and it's hot out when the sun's beating.
Yeah.
But what if you were like the shining light because you think about like darkness, but then you're like this like beam of light. It's like
Right.
this polarization or something. So that's interesting that you say that. And by the way, any of you that are watching this, you can watch it on the Untrapped Podcast YouTube channel. There'll be clips of it on Pinterest and stuff. So this is video and audio. And by the chance, if anybody sees me, when I'm on these podcasts, I don't normally do this in my videos. I'll be touching my face or my beard or putting my hands
Hmm.
because I'm trying to condition myself to because I'm so used to doing all the talking to
Yeah.
just don't talk and let my guests talk because somebody will say something and you'll be like, oh my god, yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
let them talk and let all that gold come out. So talk more a bit about that. This has been a common theme I hear kind of secretly popping up this, but the whole influencer and what gave you a taste that made you go, all right, I'm really stepping on the gas on this whole podcast and uploading videos and live
Yeah.
events.
To be honest with you, early on, so our industry, I figure, is 10 to 15 years behind, or was. We're getting closer. We're getting caught up, right, with the rest of the world. Just because, to be honest with you, we take hot oil, sand, and rocks, mix it together, and mash it to the ground. And we do it with shovels, right? I mean, that's our industry. And you don't need a whole lot of technology to really do that really well. At least you didn't. And now to create it, you do, right? And these other things you do, like to put it down, we just did a video with the first electric paver, right? Where they put it through and it's an e-paver, right? And they're putting it out. So things are changing and times are changing and that type of stuff. But I think really early on, we started making videos and these people, and I would get a lot of flack early on. You told me that. Remember that? I don't know if you remember this, but early on, you seen what I was going to go through and that it wasn't my industry.
Yeah.
And you were like, you're going to take the arrows. And I was like, that sucks. Like, oh, that sucks. You're like, you're the first, you're going to do it. You're going to take the arrows. And you actually used a different word, though. You used persecution, right? That it would be persecution. And it was. I would post in those groups and people would rip me apart. They would rip our business practices apart, my inexperience apart, all this stuff, and rip me apart. And if I was a lesser man with less vision, I would have given up immediately. And I watched a lot of people give up because people would rip them apart and tell them they weren't doing it right or whatever. And I understand why they were doing it. It was to make themselves feel good about what they had done for the majority of their life and their career, right? To give them some type of nobility or upper hand, I guess. But
Mm.
I also knew that those people were hurt, that were getting hurt, because I would get messages, right? Low key DMs where people would be like, dude, I love your content. I love what you're doing. Thank you so much. It's nice to be able to watch videos about what I do. Keep going. And they wouldn't post that in the comment section because then they would get ridiculed by the rest of the peanut gallery, right? In the comment section, but they seen it going. And then, I don't know, man, I stuck with it. I remember you all being like, you got to stick with it. You got to give it some time. It's going to take time. It's a long haul. And it started to gain some ground. And after it gained some ground, it started to make a difference in people's lives. People were coming up to me at events and saying, hey, I started my business because of you. I watched your videos. I quit my job and started doing what I do. I have the freedom that I finally wanted because of your videos. Then all of a sudden I realized, okay, it's very cool that I'm creating a community and I'm having a lot of fun doing this. And we got some early endorsement deals and stuff that I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that stuff where I realized that I was really going to make a difference in the world doing this. And that's when I got really serious about doing it and doing it well, because I realized by making these fun videos and doing what I thought was fun, I had accidentally created a lot of responsibility about the things I say and what I do and what content goes out. So it became very important for me then to realize that if I didn't know what I was talking about, I needed to find who did know what they were talking about and have them come on video with me and start doing content with me and that type of stuff. So
Mm.
that's what we started doing. And that's what I started doing. And that's why I created the podcast and kept going. I remember on LinkedIn, you asked about LinkedIn. Um, I had a guy on LinkedIn message me, somebody, and they work at a large paving company across the country. And in this office building, a guy watched my videos and whatnot and different things. And we started talking about mental health. I've had a few bouts of mental health issues myself, just because of everything Blacktop Banter's doing in the asphalt businesses and just life in general, right? I wasn't prepared for it. I never been put through a gauntlet before, like I had been put through later on in my career, to get conditioned for it. And one of these guys was going through the same thing. And um, he was watching my videos and he had a friend there, but he was telling his friend about how we're going through that in our industry and how men are going through that and that type of stuff. And that friend ended up taking his life because of stress and anxiety and stuff that a man would go through. And that's when I really realized the responsibility, and not only that, the power of what we can do. So we post quite often, and we post quite a bit about talking, right? Like, guys, just talk, guys. Like, yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to feel better. No one's going to think, I definitely am not going to. You can call here. Any of us will talk anytime about anything at any time. Because, like I said, I felt alone early on. I actually just did some things to find friends and make a community about it. So that's our responsibility here. And what we find is we want to be the voice and the resource for the community at large, whether you're a worker or a contractor or whatever. When I talk about the community, I mean the asphalt community, construction community, whoever. Right. So that's really when we got serious about it, is when we realized that it was making a difference and that there was some responsibility with it too.
Wow. That's a huge insight, being the voice for the community, and that means that you also take in other people's opinions and expertise and advice and value. So it's not only you as being the results maker, because you are very successful, but you also have like the researcher reporter model, where you report the findings and what's going
Yeah.
on. And amazing. And this leads me to a very important question for those listening. Like, what, maybe I want to do something like this. Is what did you have to do, and who did you have to be, and what role did you have to play and transition into, and what fears did you have to face in your day, like your actual asphalt business, to afford you the time and because I know that you have a family, to be able to do this as well and do it for free for an extended period of time. Because that's why a lot of there's like, dude, I don't have time to make videos. I got a business one. What am I going to do? Send this client an invoice for their $800, or am I going
Right.
to make a video? I'm going to do the invoice. Am I going to spend time with my family at the dinner table, or go make a podcast and end up in a huge fight with my wife or something like that, or not spend time with my kids, or literally not show up to family events? So it's like, um, talk about some of the stuff of maybe who you had to hire in your business, or what role. What
Sure.
do you?
One of the things you asked early on was like what I had to do, who I had to become, or whatever. I was totally not who you see now, and especially not who you've come to know through Blacktop Banner. I was introverted early on, awkward, right? Wasn't really experienced doing all that stuff. I remember asking you a question about the videos. I'm like, how do I get more polished? And you're like, you just have to keep doing it. Like, and I remember I called you one time. I was like, dude, I erased like 20 of my videos because they were so cringy. You're like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, you shouldn't have erased those videos. Like, you're gonna want to go back one day and look. And I didn't erase any more after that. And you can go back and look at some of the early Wisco videos on YouTube. And you're totally right. I'm glad I have them. I've come a long way since then, but I had to learn a lot about myself too through that whole journey. And I didn't even know myself really, I guess, then, right? Or who I was. I was just this molded putty of the atmosphere around me. And then I started to control the atmosphere around me. And when I started to control the atmosphere, then I changed, right? I turned the thermostat up, I got hotter. I turned the thermostat down, I got colder. I made it myself how I wanted to be. And that is really what was the catalyst that started the change, because I started to say, my whole life, I love rap music. You and I talked about this quite a bit. We like music. Um, I wanted all the cars and the mansions and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what we're gonna do. And then after a while, I realized that if I was gonna do this, the podcast side, I had to be happy with some level of success at Wiscote that provided me time in order to do this type of stuff. So I really started to put my value on what I loved and what I liked and what made me happy versus what I had or what money was, where, what the bank account said, or all this. But the funny thing is, once I quit caring about that so much, the easier all the rest of that stuff got. And I think it maybe was just because I started doing things that made me happier, I guess. But once we got going a little bit and I started to create some revenue, it was really easy to get into doing the social media and stuff. I just recorded through my phone and stuff, dude, while we were out and about. And then once I started to get a little bit of extra revenue, and I realized, hey, I wanted to go to some events and different things and whatnot, that I couldn't be in two places at once unless I was actually in two places at once. So I started to hire a couple of employees early on and gave them some responsibility about being in the field, training them up, and putting them in a certain place so that it created more opportunity for me to create something in the
Isn't
podcast.
it fun when you're at a live event and you're out there crushing it and you're like, man, my business is running without me. And then you
Yeah.
get a call from one of your guys that something horrific had happened.
Yeah. Like, oh, man, I finally did it. This is kind of peaceful. And then they're like, yeah, it happened, dude. It happened. We were just I'll tell you a story real quick. We were invited. Blacktop Banter was invited down to speak. I spoke at Lee Boy, which is a major manufacturer of paving equipment. They were in North Carolina, ironically. And I sent the guys out to do the last two seal coat jobs of the season last year. That's why I did the timing right. I was hoping we would be done for the season. I would get away and there wouldn't be work. I get down there. My plane lands. I'm at the car rental. I'm with our videographer, myself. Everything had gone chill. I get a phone call. And Chris, who we call Cheeks, he calls me. He's like, hey, just wanted to let you know, we were on our way down to the two jobs. I'm like, yeah. And I blew the motor in our Duramax. I'm like,
Oh,
no. He's like,
how?
yeah.
How do you
What?
blow a motor in a Duramax?
He's like, what do I do? I'm like, I'll call the clients. I'm like, you need to call tow truck. You're like an hour and a half away. You're an hour away for sure. Like, you got to get this thing back. And the worst part is our seal coat trailer is hooked onto it. So somebody had to come get them, take them back to our office,
All on the clock, too?
all on the clock, get a truck, go back, unhook the seal coat trailer, limp our Duramax forward so they could hook on to a seal coat trailer, bring it all the way back home, and then get the tow truck to bring the Duramax dually 1 ton all the way back as well. And ended up being, we'd had the truck for a while. It was a little bit over 200,000, which isn't bad on Duramax, but it had been previously tuned in order to pull heavy weight, which we really liked. But it was going uphill, and while it was going uphill, Chris hit tow haul, and it must have shot an extra surge of fuel into the top of the cylinder and just blew it right through the piston. So the top of the piston's blown out. It's blowing white smoke everywhere. Brutal. And it sat through the
Why the
winter.
hell would that happen?
It just stuck. I guess the injectors will stick sometimes over time, and the Duramax, the fuel injector will stick and just keep blowing fuel in there. And it got so hot in there, just like almost welded it right to it, and it just ripped the whole top of the freaking piston head right off. So
God.
So yeah, we were hoping it was just like a blown turbo or something like that, and we get it back, and they're like, no, and it's gonna be like 15 G's, and I'm like, cool. Within that next week, while I was gone, our agitator inside of a bulk tank, the big mixer that's in there, it decided to shear itself free. So I had scraps of steel laying inside. We broke a valve and a handle on our crack filling machine while within 2 or 3 weeks. I said, fellas, I think it's time to call our quits for the season. I think we've had enough. So we backed off. We had to recalibrate this winter and really think about where we were going to allocate funds and repair some stuff, and then work our butts off here this spring, which we have, in order to catch back up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, man. To be honest with you, when you first met me, if that would have happened, I would have melted into a puddle on the ground. Like I've done that, just doubled over and just been in the fetal position of like, way too much stress and anxiety. But I've taken on a lot of fears and stuff on the Blacktop Banter side that makes the Wisco side seem like butter. Like I can fix metal and make money and repair stuff and hire people. That's not a big deal. It's moments where we're doing a huge brand deal here at Blacktop Banner where it's my turn to make or break and make that sale. And I'm creating something that no one had ever created before. And it's my turn to deliver. And if I don't deliver, we're not going to be able to keep the lights on here. We're in our office 10 miles from where our home is and where our other Wisco base is. And there's 4 people here. They need paid, right? They need all this work. And we're trying to create something. And they jumped on because they believe in me. And here I am at this moment in Con Expo where we just were, where our friend
Are these part-time or full-time people
uh,
helping?
Chris is on. I have 2 full-timers. Yeah.
So what are they editing and mixing down podcasts and uploading and doing social media content like an actual social media business?
Correct. Yeah. So we have an admin here that's here full time, and then Chris is our operations director here as well. And then I do sales and everything still right on our end, plus obviously the creative side. And then we have a videographer that's part time as well, Wise, who's been in a few of the videos lately. He's a character, but we all have our own personalities and whatnot here too. If people follow our content in our space and whatnot too, so they're here all the time. Chris is here more than I am. I got to give the guy credit. I couldn't do it at this level without him, and fortunate to have him. But same thing with Chris at Wisco. So I have 2 Chris's. I can't get away from him. You know, I wouldn't be able to do this if he wasn't there, right, doing his thing there. So,
So your guy Chris there, he can he put out fires too?
No, he can. He's an actual firefighter.
Oh, that's
Truthfully,
awesome.
yeah,
So that's like basically you hired a crew leader, operations manager, a guy you pay a little bit more and
correct,
entrust him with more responsibility. But
correct.
you had to make sure that you got your numbers figured out and that were making a little more money in the business and you
Mm-hmm,
trusted where the revenue was coming from.
mm-hmm.
You knew you grew and knew your worth. So then you could take on more people and people like that. So then you can transition over. Did you have to put any like systems in place or was it just having the right guys in order
No,
to?
it was all me. It all came through me, to be honest with you, and that was the hard part because I'm not designed that way. I'm designed of, a customer calls, we go out, give them a price, we do the job, come back, I hand them an invoice, they send a check, and that's that. And
Mhm.
that had always went through me with a helper, maybe,
So
right?
are you in a financially profitably in the kind of a sweet spot where if you tried to grow more, it would start pulling you back into cash flow purgatory? Like, are you at a healthy
Yes.
point? Okay.
Yes, like where I'm trying to dabble, which is why we acquired the other business and did the other business, right, in a more larger market with more commercial work with higher margins to help pull us that way because we're in a rural area. We're in the second largest population in my county, and there's 700 people in that town, right? So there's not a lot of people here. We're land rich, we're not population rich. So for us, we really jumped into a city and acquired a business in the city and started a business in the city so that I could have more opportunity for larger work in one spot for higher margins on commercial side. So we're still there because we're expanding and I keep expanding. I kind of ride the line right there, right? I ride the line of, yeah, you're spending some. Yes, you're making some. Wow, you're spending some. Wow, you made a lot. Wow, you spent a lot. So, so that's
I'm
what we
getting my
do.
social media pics. I
So
ain't scared.
that's what we do. To be in that spot, and it's scary still, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's scary still, and we risk it.
How
So,
many hours a week do you spend in the blacktop business versus the media business?
on myself personally,
You.
yeah, I mix them both together quite a bit. On paper, I spend Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at Wiscote and Dubuque, and then Tuesday and Thursday I spend here. But it doesn't stop. Some days I get up 6 a.m. and take a call, especially now that we do our Blacktop Banner Success Group, which is our mentorship group.
Mhm.
Sometimes I do onboarding calls for those guys early on. Sometimes I do them really late for Blacktop Banner, and then sometimes I'm out until 9 o'clock estimating for Wiscote. So it's really hard for me. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of free time and spare time. And I was explaining something to my children this weekend. We went down to Galena, Illinois. I had some work there to estimate a parking lot and a few other jobs. So I try to do both. I know, and I know you and Ashley do as well. Like if you go on if we go on a work trip, we're also making it a fun family trip, right? At the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you do because I've seen you bring the pups and whatnot before.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we did this weekend, and I explained to my daughter. I don't know where it came from, but I explained to her that every choice is a sacrifice. No matter what you choose, you're giving something up for that choice, right? And I explained to her because we were talking about Blacktop Banter and how I was going to have to get up early, not for Blacktop Banter, I'm sorry, for Dubuque, how I was going to have to get up early while we were on this trip, and I was going to have to go estimate for like 4 hours and then come back and then we can do whatever. And she was like, "Yeah, but I wanted to get up early and go fishing." And I said, "Well, that's my sacrifice. I have to do this and not go fishing." I said, "Now, if I go fishing, I'm going to have to give up this on the other side. And if I give up this, that means we're not going to be able to come here and go fishing, right? Even in the afternoon." So I have to make these choices. And I was explaining that to her because she's getting to she'll be in high school next year, believe it or not, which is like crazy, man. But she's talking about going out, with friends and different things now. And I explained that to her. I'm like, and choices that you make, you're sacrificing something, whether it's down the road long term, whether it's short term, whatever it is. And I realized early on, and I explained to them early on, that this path that I'm choosing means that I'm going to have to give up a lot of things that a normal husband and normal dad may not be able to, that they're willing to provide that I'm not, which is a lot of free time and a lot of times doing activities or just hanging out or doing whatever. But also I realized that if I chose that path, they would never have somebody firsthand that they could witness follow their dream and create something amazing. And that's what I want for them, right? I want them to feel like they live a life really well lived and fulfilled if that's what they want. So they're learning that. And my daughter is learning that now that she's getting into high school and having to make some of those tougher choices as things are going on. But every choice being a sacrifice sounds really bad, but it's not. It's all in whatever you make it. If sacrificing something makes you happy, then you've made a good choice, right? Sometimes you don't realize it in the moment, but you're sacrificing stuff that you don't see, and then it comes to fruition later on. And the best thing you can do is learn from the choices that you made that you thought were good that ended up bad. And I've had some of those happen in life. And I think the best thing that you do with that type of information is share it. So, we podcast a lot. I'm a guest on podcasts somewhat often, and we talk about some of those things, some choices and different things. And you see it in other people's lives and whatnot too.
Real quick, I want to. There's a huge overarching point that you made without actually saying it. What I articulate from this is it sounds like you hyper communicate with the people that you love and say, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do, and here's why." And it doesn't mean that I love you any less, but this is what's happening. Just going and doing stuff and disappearing all the time and not being there. Say, I get emotional about this topic without telling people why and without them having any closure as of the why.
Mm-hmm.
That's like totally unfair to the
Yeah.
people that you love or that you're married to or bring into this world and things like that. I heard this first from kind of like a Gary Vaynerchuk because he was on stage once. This is more like 2017. He's like, somebody in the audience was like, "How does your wife and your family deal with you never being home?" He goes, "Listen, she effing well, we're on my podcast. She fucking enables me. I'll say I got to be here, and she'll just start helping pack my stuff." But he says he's hyper communicative of what he's doing and why, at least. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't know anything about him or his life, but it was funny. But when he said communicate, it's like so like I used to not say anything and then kind of bottle things up and then get upset. But now I tell my wife, "Yo, I got this podcast
Yeah.
on Wednesday nights, Mondays and Wednesdays." I'm doing Mondays because we're doing a lot of shows right now, but Wednesday nights, my podcast. Monday nights where I do consulting after running the landscape. I consult other people.
Mm-hmm.
I have Tuesday night is date night. And so I have this structure that she can depend on. And she knows that
Yeah.
this is what Keith is going to be doing. So right immediately after work, you're not going to see me, but all the other nights I'm there. So it's like, it's that communication. And now I'm taking it up to the next notch where it's like, I've been around the country speaking on stages and doing all these different things. And now I just take my wife with me. But even if you want to chase a big dream and do all this extra stuff and build like a media business, I'm not saying you, I'm saying to people listening or that
Yep.
I've learned is there's family members that might be up your ass all the time and want to spend a lot of time with you, even toxic family members. And it's tough, but like, if you have somebody in your family who's, let's just say they're a lot older than you and they're toxic, but like, listen, man, this is my fucking time to shine right now. I'm in my 20s, 30s, or whatever, even early 40s. I'm crushing it right now. You had your time then. Don't try to pull me down because
Mm-hmm.
you're down or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I'm fucking shining right now. And if you
Mm-hmm.
really love me, you'll stand back and support me and let me shine, but you're not going to fucking pull me down. It's
Yeah.
like, I think about stuff like that and the guilt that comes along with trying to run a day business and building a media business or building your business bigger for that matter. And it's communication and having clear cut definitions and reasons why help
Yeah. And standing firm in
navigate
them.
that path. Huh?
And standing firm in them.
Hmm?
Right. Like that's the hard part, right? Is you can have definition and you can say, yeah, this is how it is. But if you falter from that a little bit and you blur those lines a little bit, um, then you're giving up something for something else again, right? And it's like, man, I need to stick to that rigidity, right, of it, and not only for myself, but I'm letting other people down if I don't, right, as well. If it's family time or like date nights Tuesday night, right? So, if you're like, oh yeah, well they had to move from Monday to Tuesday. Sorry, babe. You don't.
No, hell no. I don't care what it is. If it's Tuesday,
Bingo.
my wife comes first.
Right.
So I don't care if
So then
it
people are
better be
like,
some $1 million thing that's gonna buy us a beach house or something that
yeah,
my wife directly highly benefits for me to
yes,
put anything in front of her on
yep,
date night.
yep, and we'll have guys too, right? That'll be like, hey, sorry, man, I can't do the time we had for today. Can I just, can we do it next week, Wednesday? I'm like, yeah, we can do that, but that means I'm gonna have to move something else, right? I'm gonna have to do something else. It's hard to stay firm. I think the best thing that you can do is prioritize some of those clear cut lines and clear cut priorities, and make them be like, okay, these few things, like you just said about the time with your wife, like these few things, nothing touched those. The
They're
rest of the
sacred,
stuff,
and if you want, and you
right?
have sacred honor, then you keep sacred things sacred. And
Correct.
that was hard in the beginning. Hey, real quick, and on the of us talking about all this, I put together this thing called the marketing progression pyramid about how to market your business hands off. Like, we have 17 virtual assistants now in my media business, and a lot of things are totally automated. So if you want to learn, I'm doing anybody listening, it's keithkelfis.com/influence. Go there and put your email in. I'm kind of doing an experiment here, but okay, keep going.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, what I was saying was when you prioritize things differently and you give in a little bit here or there, what ends up happening is that there becomes a gray area, especially with like who are my assistants, and they'll be like, "Well, yeah, but last time, we have a process, an SOP when a customer calls in, and sometimes I'll go to the table and take the slip before it's entered because I want to make the calls before I leave the office, before it's entered into Jobber, which we use, and I'm like, hey, okay, that's my fault. I called before you had it entered. That I screwed that up, and I was the one that gave you the SOP of this is how we do it. So I try to stay rigid and prioritize their process that is our process as well. Because if I go start screwing with that a little bit, I've noticed that people be like, "Hey, did you take the slip?" I'm like, no. Well, you did before, so I thought maybe you did. I don't know where it is. I lost it. Or I thought you were going to do this because you did it last time. So we really got to stick with that and be like, that's not the SOP. That's not our standard operating procedure. I'm a victim of that because I want to be efficient. Sometimes I think if I make an extra phone call, it's going to free up 10 minutes for me to go walk the dog later with my wife or whatever. Right. So I got to stick to that too as well, which is hard.
Awesome. So you're talking about like consistency, sticking to the script, to the system, and being consistent and more rigid.
Yeah. And you asked earlier about developing them. Like I said, I had no clue, dude. I learned a lot from you all and was like, what do I do here? Like my business is growing. I don't have time for this. I don't have time to edit videos because I'm fielding calls and going to every single job site and doing this. You're like, well, some of these you can just bid from your computer. Oh, well, guess what? Now I have time to record podcasts or make videos, right? Or do this type of stuff. And that's really like some of the stuff early on was me figuring out the systems, and they weren't always the greatest. Some of them were archaic and on paper. Like we didn't do QuickBooks until like 2 years ago, right? And this is our 19th year in business. I did everything on paper because it was the only system I knew, and it was a system that worked, so I stuck with it. Now, in the last 2 years, we've got double the employees. We're doing 25% more, if not 30% more in revenue, all because of systems that I was scared to give up because it worked beforehand, right?
Super nice. I love it. What would you say? Well, first of all, where can everybody find you?
Yeah. Oh, if you go to Blacktop Banter on Google, you can definitely find us. Blacktopbanter.com, at Blacktop Banter on Instagram. Blacktop Banter podcast is on anywhere you want to listen to podcasts, and on YouTube as well.
I love it. You're in Wisconsin right now?
Yeah. We're in Wisconsin. We're in Spring Green at the office right now. We're earlier today we were at Wiscote until I don't know. It's 3:51 now where I am. Probably until 1 o'clock. I was with the guys on site doing some patchwork and different things with asphalt, and then switched gears and came over here. So
Nice.
go
Now
ahead.
I just remembered I was trying to create some space because there was something that popped up 7-8 minutes ago that I remembered. This was so I had this paradigm shift when I started like traveling around the country and giving the guys jobs to do without me being there, and then hiring a crew leader, and then growing the media business and having people do stuff for me because I read this book called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. And it
Yeah.
was when I realized, oh my God, things can happen without me being a control freak and me not being there. And then I realized, oh my God, I am location independent. Then I started to feel like anything that handcuffs me to specific locations at specific times, that is the trap, is having to be places physically. So, but one thing to watch out for thinking, oh my God, I can, because we're talking a little about media, grow a personal brand. I'm obsessed with making these distinctions, and I'm all day. So you think about like Tom Cruise, one of the biggest actors in the world, let's just say, when he's got to go around and do all these interviews and be on the Tonight Show and all these things because he's got a new movie coming out, he has to fucking be there and be everywhere because he even though he's an actor, he's still a high paid self-employed person. He's still a personal brand. If he's not there, he can't send anybody else to do it for him. So he is in a way still, even though he makes millions, still handcuffed to his art and to what he's doing. So you got to pick your poison and choose what you're going to do. Or if you want to be the guy behind the scenes, you can grow some systematized business model that eventually will maybe free you so you can have the laptop lifestyle or whatever not. But think about into the future, 1, 3, 5, 10, 20 years, what is going to, where I'll be free and location independent, if that's your thing, or am I going to be tied?
Yeah. Yeah. It's different, right? Because we both have service businesses and then we have personal brand businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And they're two completely different styles of business with different dedications. I think once you get to a certain point, you can escape your service business, but you can definitely do the media and technology one easier and better. Like if we were to, let's say you and I recorded 20 podcast episodes and we batched them, and then we had 100 pieces of video content put together, or still content like photos and stuff. I could totally go 3 or 4 months, maybe 5 if I stretch it out, and do Blacktop Banter from wherever with a Google Drive and that content, right? And put it out, and then do stuff on the fly as well if I wanted to, from wherever I was. So that's totally cool. And that's the free part of this. If I was stuck and didn't do Blacktop Banter and didn't do a personal brand or anything, I have a feeling that it would have been a lot easier for me to stay in the trap of building Westcoat because I would want to keep growing. Um, and that would mean me being in the business, right? I want to be an integral part in it. No one can knows it and runs it better than I do at this point, at least. Therefore, for the machine to flow really well for an extended period of time, I have to be there until I have a good friend. His name is Jacob Buck. His dad's name is Chad Buck. They have a great story, really, really good story. I got to get it on Blacktop Banter at some point. But his father was nearly bankrupt in this business, grabbed a mentor. The mentor showed him how to run the business really well. It grew very wealthy. His sons took over. Dude, Chad goes wherever he wants, does whatever he wants. In this asphalt business, they're in Toledo, Ohio. And he's always sending videos from his boat and taking pictures from his boat and whatnot down in the Gulf and whatnot. And it was like, okay, I know I can do both of these. I know I can. I just have to figure out the system and way to do it. And I'm still in it. That's the thing is I'm 37 and I've been at this probably 10 years pretty steady. I think I got some good time left with me and I got a young guy and some good people around me. I'm totally cool with halfway through my 40s escaping, right? And being like, okay, let's see how this goes. See how I dabble in what I do. I
It's
hope.
funny that you say halfway through your 40s because you're going to wake up at 39 and go, why did I say halfway? I should have said now.
Yeah, I should have
Like,
said no. Yeah. Shut up, dude. And I strive for that. We're working towards that. The hardest part, I think, is letting go of your mentors and your mastermind group and your peers around you to grab on to. I say grab on because that's literally what I do most of the time. I'm a sponge, and I never really want anything from anybody. I just want to be around them and learn, right, and absorb their knowledge. Um, if they share it, great. If they don't, I'm going to hang around long enough to find it out anyways. So I'm just going to be there. But there's more people at the lower level, like your pyramid. There's more people here, less people here, less people here, less people here, right? But these are all they're all have their own level of comfortability. When there's more people there, you're included with more people. You have more friends, right? It's easier to stay right there. That's why people don't go out and start their own businesses and do their own things because there's so many people that are laborers on that side of it. But then you jump to this level and then your business hits a certain number and you're like, well, I want to be a 7-figure business. And then you go to here, right? And then you're like, well, not only want to go to 7, I want to go to 8-figure. And then it's tinier. Everywhere, every step you go is tinier. The problem is letting go of those people who you became friends with and who you became close with and who keep you comfortable in a way where you're intimate with them regularly. That's the problem that I've have because I'm a people person. I've always wanted to be accepted, be around people, and they're my friends, and I enjoy them. I genuinely enjoy people, even if we do nothing business wise. If you're my friend, I just like being around you. I like celebrating your success. I like being around. I like you when you celebrate my success. I love that. But lately, with where we are at Westcoat, I'm able to see. You asked me earlier, am I riding that wave of am I too heavy here? Could it sink it? Right. I ride that a lot, but I believe we create enough revenue that I shouldn't be there anymore. And the way to find out how to not be there anymore and how to do it correctly is to find people who have done it correctly and then take advice from them, take education from them. And that's what we're doing now. And that's what I'm doing my next steps here going forward, which is tough, but it's necessary in order for me to be the best version of myself that I can be. Like I told you when we first met.
So what I'm picking up is you build a strong foundation and you build on top of that. And once that ship is up and sailing, now it's not like one day you just jump because you said you were out in the field today.
I was,
So
yeah, I was out today.
it's like 80 hours, then 70, then 65, then 60, 55, 50, 45, 40. Then you get to the point where you're only maybe working in your business 10 hours a week. And then maybe you're only in the field 4 or 5 hours a week on the most important things. And you just and then maybe something changes and you're back in there 25. And then little by little, the goal is maybe you spend 1 hour a week or something, or maybe
Yeah.
nothing. I don't know. You probably have to pay somebody a lot of money to totally take over a CEO position, but
There's
I've never
guys.
done anything like that yet.
No, I'm not there yet either. But I know there's guys, right, who generate half the revenue I do, and they hired somebody to run their crew with 2 other guys on the crew or 1 other guy on the crew, and they fish all day. They're just like, this is what I wanted. And they're totally happy. Right? They're totally happy. They're like, yeah, the guys go out, I tell them what few jobs to do. I fish 3 days a week, 4 days a week. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, I don't want to do that. I actually enjoy building and creating still. Um, I could have backed off
You
that
know,
pedal a long time ago, but that's not my cup of tea.
just to kind of like rattle that someone said, "Oh wow, that might be nice." Well, maybe that guy who built that business, or anybody, guy or girl, whatever. I'm thinking it's like asphalt business or landscaping. Maybe he's at a point in his life where he has to go spend an entire year fishing 3 to 4 days a week to absolve and remediate the stress and problems that could have caused him a premature fucking heart attack or a
For sure.
stroke. And so that's what he requires. And it was either shut down the whole business or get his business to a point where he can go fish 3 days a week so he doesn't die and his
Oh
family
yeah.
is burying him. Like, you don't know, like, oh, that guy's so lucky he's fishing. No, that guy might be like suffering out there fishing, just trying to
Yeah.
go through the motions, run his business off of his phone, do the bare minimum so he doesn't lose his house and everything. Like, but we're like, oh, like, I just think of like one person,
Their
what
perspective.
what they think might be heaven could be hell.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's one of the very first times I heard like of people running like hands-free businesses. What really wasn't it wasn't in the green industry or the asphalt industry. It was actually power washing, and it was a young kid, dude. He was like, I was over in Shakopee, Minnesota, visiting somebody I know there, and uh, there's actually my brother-in-law brought this kid to my attention, and he was like 22, 23. And if I remember right, I want to say the name of the company is Seal King, but it wasn't like sealer. It was like concrete sealing. So he did power cleaning and surface cleaning on concrete. And then they would just seal it, right? They would just seal the concrete. He did nothing. The kid did nothing. He had somebody who was semi-retired do the sales and estimating and scheduling. That guy did the scheduling. And then he had 2 people on the team. The kid didn't need much of anything. He had the house that he was in given to him by his parents. He started this business. That business did it. He literally played video games most of the time and hung out. And the business kind of ran its thing and did its thing. Did that last forever? I don't know. Right? Did it create this great, amazing lifestyle he wanted? I don't know. But he was able to do what he wanted, and the business ran itself. And he built the business. He just built it systematically so that it could run and function without him.
The only thing holding you being the guy on the lawnmower behind the wand or whatever is the belief, the construct that you've built that you have to be there, that everything's
Correct.
going to fall apart if you don't. Now, the profit margins and profitability, if you're not going to make any money if you get off that wand, if your business isn't structured, like the sales, and you get a super low paying cheap clientele that you've created, like
Mhm.
I'm not saying you can instantly make the shift, but it might take you 60, 90, it might take a whole year. I don't know, to what we call pivot, but start to
Yeah.
pivot. And
Yeah.
you can, like a boat, you can slowly turn directions to the point where little by little by little, you're weaning yourself off of the bottle, so to speak, of the addiction of thinking that you must.
Yeah. That's where we are too. I think that's where it's been such a slow transition for me. Where our industry has so many different facets, right? We do paving, and then you can do seal coating, you can just do crack filling, you can do line striping. Some guys do strictly patching. Other guys do all the prep work and site work and stuff like that. And it, because there are larger margins with the same number of operation people at different levels, sometimes like in paving, you make a great margin but the investment's large, but you can have the same number of people. If you had 2 seal coating crews going out with less margin, you had to do more volume. Same thing with striping. You have to do tons of volume at striping that these guys do in order to create a certain margin somewhere else. So whichever lane you're in determines how quick you get to pivot, right? To go here and here. If you're creating great margin, huge margin, and there's tons of space there, it's easy to hire and hey, cool, call me if something goes wrong. See you guys later. Where on my end, it's been okay, we gotta learn the slow pivot. The crazy part of it is technology and the business is changing at the same time too. So I still kind of got to be there because it's not archaic enough for me to be like, it's this, 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 and this, and that's how it's going to be for the next 20 years. See ya. Right. It's like, oh, this changing. Oh, this is changing. I got to come back in and nurse us here. And then I got to come back in and nurse us here and move. So that's been an interesting dynamic as technology and society and civilizations change too as well. I've had to kind of navigate that a little bit, but slowly over the last 3 to 4 years, I'm not in the field 100% of the time, been able to do Blacktop Banter more. And today I'm in the field with the guys. This might be the only day this week I'm in the field with the guys. So really excited about that, right? If it's a little more intricate work, I like to be there. And I get a feel when I do sales, whether or not the customer prefers if I'm there or not, right? Like you can kind of feel that sometimes if you're doing a sale on a big job where they're like, well, I'm kind of worried that this is going to happen and that's going to happen and this might happen. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll be here to make sure that none of that's going to happen. Right. And some other people are like, cool, as long as you can have it done before Friday, we'll be happy. We have a party coming. Oh, cool. All right. Yeah, the guys will have it done before Friday. See you later. Right. So I make all these little notes on our jobber form and whatnot to say, hey, I got to be there or I don't have to be there and whatnot. So it's interesting, man. And it's been a big change, a big dynamic. When we first met, never did I ever think it would get to this point. Never did I think Wiscoat would get where it was going to get. Like I was happy. I was happy generating the revenue that we met when we met that I had made at Wiscoat. I was happy with that. I just wanted more for my life, not so much more I wanted more for my purpose, not so much more money or more things or whatever. I don't care about that at all. And we have had probably close to 10x growth, right, since then. And that's just at Wiscoat. And it's like, okay, I didn't really do anything majorly besides take advice from the people that I was around that was in my mastermind group and then make adjustments as I went to my systems. Like that's all I really did because I still have the same amount of hours in the day and I still put in about the same hours each day, whether it's Wiscoat or Blacktop Banter. Blacktop Wiscoat, I put in less hours, actually, I would think at this point, but I didn't really do anything amazing besides educate myself, be around like-minded people, take their advice and put it into action. Right. Some of the early mastermind groups we were with some of your and my close friends in the green space, in the green industry. And I remember like telling those guys, like, I got to go. Like I've learned everything I can learn here. Like I'm going to put it into action. We'll see what happened. A year later, I came back and was in that mastermind group. And it was after I left that, I had my first 6-figure year. And I went back and I was like, yeah, we went to 6 figures. We actually went to double 6 figures. And they're like, how? Like the whole time you were here, you were like struggling, like, how do I do this? How, whatever. It was because I just went out and did it. And I think that a lot of times what people fall victim to is consuming, and not really doing.
I'm too afraid to do it. So let me go learn more about it.
Right. Because they want this huge safety net. And it's like, dude, you already have the net is the same no matter what. Right. Like just because it's pulled tighter or higher or lower, it's the same effing safety net. Like if you're going to fall, you're going to fall. But I think that that's kind of a trap that people fall into. Because we have guys now that are in the Blacktop Banter Success Group, which is guys all the way that don't have a piece of equipment yet to guys that are making 8 figures a year, right? And there's guys that will join at the exact same time. And in 6 months, this guy's making 6 figures, and this guy is still trying to figure out what seal coat rig he wants to buy. You know what I mean? So I'm like, that's the variable. They're the variable. Because they're all consuming the same content at the same time. They're the variable. Whether it's outside content or inside content, I don't know. But from Blacktop Banter Success Group, they're consuming the same. And it all has a lot to do with upbringing. And that's really where I try to do my best as their friend. I'd never say coach. I don't want to say I'm coaching anybody or doing anything. But as their friend, I'm like, hey, man, maybe it's this. You know, as your peer and your fellow mastermind group member, maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. And hopefully they make changes and adjustments. Thankfully, we've had everybody keeps getting some level of success and moving on and sticking with us. But yeah, I think we've witnessed that. You and I have probably witnessed that in the green industry, right? From time to time with people that we've ran into, not necessarily super close in our circles, but just people you see that say they want something and then their actions don't show that they do want it, right? Like, I want to learn more. I want to know how to do that. Wish I could do that. Like, well, here, this is how you do it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can spare the extra blank amount of dollars or time to join this program or do this. And that's the biggest mistake they can make. I actually posted a Mr. Beast video to our TikTok, Blacktop Banter TikTok today. And it was pretty much the epitome of a mastermind group and explained how he was able to create so much success on YouTube in a shorter amount of time than anyone else. And it was because of a mastermind group that he had where these guys would go out. He said they spent 1,000 days consuming how to learn. And then they went out and did it. And then they reported back to each other with trial and error, everything. Like all the stuff you used to tell me about thumbnail creation, the pixelization, how warm it is, how isn't, what type of words to have up, what your tag should be, what your description should be, what your title should be. And he was like, in 1 week, we would report to each other what it would have took the rest of us a month to learn on our own. He's like, so here we shortened up 4 years of learning and made it into 1 year. Well, after 5 years, we took 20 years of learning and had it in 5 years. And essentially, that's what you can do by joining a program or a mastermind group or a training or some of this stuff. But there's always this, I don't know how to explain it really. Maybe you have a better word for it, but I'll say like a barrier or like a fog or people think, or a facade where they think, oh, because you're charging me X amount, maybe it's not this. What I relate it to with Blacktop Banter Success Group is we have a membership fee. Same way you have one at Costco, right? Like there's a reason why there's a membership fee at Costco and not at Walmart. Go into Walmart and go into Costco and tell me that inside there everything looks the same. It doesn't. The reason it doesn't is because the atmosphere in there in each of those separately are different because there's a barrier to entry in one of them. Because there's a barrier to entry, the atmosphere by the people in it create a different atmosphere than the people that are in the other one where there's no barrier to entry, where anybody can go in. So for us, what we try to explain, especially with the success group, where I think the membership fee is very, very affordable, is it helps us figure out who's serious or not. And it also gets you dedicated because you're spending money on it. It's like a gym membership. You get guilty when you buy a gym membership and you don't go to the gym. You're like, shit, I'm wasting that money on this, man. Like, I got to go to the gym. Sometimes it gets your ass in the gym, right? Having that gym membership. So that's kind of what we say and how we explain it with what we do here. But to me, I can honestly say without you and without some of our friends early on and some of the groups and mastermind groups I was in, some of the events we attended together and had these great conversations with, I would still be so far behind that I know for a fact I wouldn't be at this point, right? So I needed those. They were necessary in order to get me on this trajectory. And how I gauge it, and you and I've had this conversation over a deep phone call, is whether I'm happy or not. I'm still pretty happy, Keith. So I feel like I'm doing the right thing. There's a stream. I would say, I feel like I'm in a stream going the right way. When I'm against the tide or it's drowning me, I must be doing something wrong. So I really try to just gauge it by that. I don't want to swim against a current. I want to float. I want it to take me to a bigger stream. And I want to take me to the ocean, right? And then that's when I know I've made it. So I really try to not kick too hard and get exhausted and drown myself, but I also try not to let anything pull me down either. Some of those groups, some of those mastermind groups are essential in helping you stay the course.
Mm-hmm. So I'm picking up this. We're about to wrap up here in a second.
Yeah.
This dichotomy between wanting to be successful, but also learning how to qualify opportunity when you're in opportunity overwhelmed, drowning in opportunity, saying what are the KPIs or the most specific things that I should be doing right now and things that we should let go because you have like lakes, rivers, streams, tributaries, and puddles. And once you get more mature and advanced, you don't go and invest your time and energy in something unless it's going to do, I don't know, 20,000 first month or at least 50,000 this year. Like
Right.
what I don't, so people get excited and talk a lot of things, and it's exciting to be impulsive, and you can do a lot of cool creative things, but then you say, where's this going to lead ultimately? And some people don't want to have that conversation. They just want to feel good now. Well,
Yes.
I've been through all that shit, bro. And I've ran around the whole country making crazy ass videos and doing dumbass landscape jobs and losing money. Like, I've gotten gray hairs to prove it, bro.
Yeah.
And so now I'm way more strategic and focused, and I pay people. Like last night in front of my, like I'm paying a guy 7,000. He gave me a discount, 7,500. So I'm paying a guy $7,000 right now, a high level strategic branding transformist expert walking me through 2-hour long Zoom calls, doing a deep dive into my brand of the psychology, the demographic, psychographic, geographic, beyond the customer avatar. This shit is fucking epic, bro. $7,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I stood up on the couch last night. I was frustrated building a sales page in front of my wife. I said, I don't give a fuck what it takes. I'm fucking putting the money aside. I'm going to pay $25,000 if to hire a high level strategic internet. And people are like, $25,000 for what? Fuck that. I'm a marketing expert. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, pay me the
Yeah.
$25,000. No, I'm going to people that are doing, 10 million a year online that won't even talk to you unless you pay them $25,000. Like, I'm so frustrated. I'm at that point. I want to grow because I'm in fucking opportunity overwhelm.
Mhm.
And so the highest level of the marketing progression pyramid that I'm talking about that I've created, the final step of the capstone is when you have a project manager who manages all the virtual assistants. So now you spend most of your time, the 80-20 rule Pareto, 80% of the time is spent in pure creative flow state. So you can do the genius things, because when you're stuck in the operations, it consumes the bandwidth in your subconscious mind. Condition, you feel like you're constantly drowning and you can't catch up. So you only have 24 hours in a day, true. But it's that fight between inspiration and imagination. When you can stay inspired in a state of imagination, that's when you can do epic shit.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but you have to have like the vision. Where if you read the book, we talk about this all the time on this podcast, Traction by Gino Wickman. He wrote Rocket Fuel,
Yeah.
Get a Grip, the visionary integrator relationship. You need integrators, or that one main integrator who can top down model. Like, your job as a media person, you should only be in front of a camera and in front of a microphone and coming up with amazing ideas and executing. And I mean as a personal brand, but your entire team should do everything else. Like, you put the ball on the top and it comes down the bottom and the tickets are coming out. You shouldn't be doing anything else but
Putting that ball
speaking
on
in front
top.
of a camera and a microphone.
Yeah.
Everybody else does everything else. And I hired a creative director, full-time videographer to follow me around. And I thought this was going to be it. That's a whole nother story of why it didn't work, because there was no clarity around boundaries. I gave this guy, who's a genius, full creative direction. And my videos were turning into like almost like, I have a whole bunch of videos out there. They were fun and crazy, but they look like a freaking pop TV show music video. And like, they came out something totally, and they were very entertaining for sure.
Right.
But my messaging went way off the rails. And dude, if my wife didn't stop me, because she's like, keeps me like balanced, dude, I'd have been off in California shooting fucking crazy ass music videos, say, what up, dog? Because it has nothing to do with what I was originally trying to do, because this thing inside you wants to, I don't know, man. I could talk about it for
I'll
hours.
tell you what it
It's deep
is.
lessons. Huh?
I tell you what it is. You realize that you can do anything, right? You realize, like,
Mhm.
dude, I can do anything. So then everything is on the board. Like we have a huge whiteboard here. I had a huge one and I doubled the size of it because I couldn't fit it all on there. And Chris came in, my operations guy here. He's like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm like, this is all the shit we do. He's like, why? Why do you have all this shit? He's like, you need to do 5 things really good. And then from there, when we grow revenue and you create a business, then we can start talking about all this other shit. But right now, you need to do 5 things because you're trying to do everything and you're not going anywhere. So really, he embodied, especially Rocket Fuel, right, with the visionary integrator. He's like, I'll take care of all that shit. You start making the content, making the contacts, and getting sponsorships and advertising, and people do invest in us because they know who you are and what you do.
Yeah,
And
you
that's
got to pick a nail and hammer it all the way down.
yes, sir. You nailed it. Yeah, literally. You nailed it. Yeah, we had to pick one and pick two and really go for it. And that's what we did here. And we're stuck to our guns at Wisco with that idea too, I think.
That was good. I want to wrap up here because now we could talk for 3 hours about that topic. Guys, Marvin Joles from Wizcoat and Blacktop Banter podcast. Check them out. Any closing statement, bro?
No, man, just be happy. Just do what makes you happy. That's the biggest thing. And I
But
really,
what if what I do that makes me happy keeps me broke? I got to do things I hate.
well, why would you be depressed? Why would you worry about being broke if you were happy?
Because
You know what I
then
mean?
if you don't have a family that you get to pay everything for, then they beat you over the head with a piece of shit hammer. There's this.
The claw side. The claw side. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just do what makes you happy. And sometimes people are like, well, I got to work a job, so it pays a bill and makes me happy. Well, whatever, man. If that's what makes you happy, you made the choices. You sacrificed when you made the choices. So just do what makes you happy.
As Tom Reber said in the Contractor Sales Academy, handle your shit.
Yeah, handle your shit.
Handle your own shit.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Anyways. All right, guys. Later. We'll see you on the next show. Wait, I got to
Thanks.
get out of the screen. Peace.